Small and medium businesses are the forgotten 5,000, constantly competing against the big corporations like the Fortune 500. Well, what if those small businesses had a playbook that is as effective, if not more effective, than those big corps? Yeah, let's talk about that.
Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to The Brian Nichols Show.
Well, hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show. I am, as always, your humble host, joining you from our lovely Cardio Miracle Studios here in sunny Eastern Indiana. The Brian Nichols Show is powered by the best heart health supplement in the world. So, folks, you're looking to lower that resting heart rate, maybe lower your blood pressure, improve your pump at the gym. Stick around. We'll talk about that later in today's episode. Or if you're watching today's episode, simply scan that little QR code over my shoulder or head to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. You'll see a little note saying, Brian, or you're shopping with Brian Nichols there at your checkout. So one more time, cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. But let's jump into today's topic of conversation. For folks who've been listening to the Brian Nichols Show for a while, you know that the world of politics and public policy, that's not my only world. I actually do a lot of my world in the world of small business and technology sales. So today's conversation, it really hammers home and is really close to home a lot of the points I've been making here on the show, the importance of building alternative solutions, but also the challenge therein. Because elephant in the room, when you're a small business, yeah, you might have a great idea. You might have a great product. You might have a great solution. But more often than not, you are, in fact, competing with those big guys. So how are you successful? Do you copy and paste the playbooks from the big guys? Probably not. Why? Well, because those big guys have massive teams, massive departments going ahead and putting forth massive campaigns. Whereas the small guys, if you're a solopreneur, you're basically playing every single role all at once. So let's try to unpack this and actually develop a real playbook that's tangible, but also it is successful for these small and medium businesses. And joining me here on the show today, author of the brand new book, Unconvention, a Small Business Strategy Guide, is Sri Kaza. Sri, welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Brian. So you
very looking. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I spent like 15 years working with these Fortune 500, and this was at McKinsey and a few other consulting firms along the way. And after having left McKinsey to go and run corporations or other big companies, my focus was on small businesses. We helped with tax credits. We helped with hiring. And then most recently, I was running a lending firm, lending to small businesses. And all of those things have led me to really get passionate about helping the little guy.
Well, let's talk about that, because one of the things that I talk about in my day job all day long is the importance of having tangible solutions for small and medium businesses. Because in the world of technology sales, and I see this in the contact center space quite a bit, you have your big players out there who they'll bring down this incredible, multi six-figure solution. It's going to cost businesses, I mean, sometimes even more than the six figures. You're going to the seven figures plus. And it's these really cool technologies that have been built out, but candidly, Sri, they're not very accessible, specifically from a price standpoint for these small and medium businesses. So one of the challenges I always see when I'm talking to small business owners and entrepreneurs is, how do I compete? How do I actually have the ability to face these Goliaths out there and not just have a fighting chance, but actually win in the marketplace there? So just before we dig into what you're seeing as some solutions, tell us just some of the stories you've heard from small businesses. Like, what are some of these real life challenges that you've encountered boots on the ground?
In spending time with small businesses, one of the first things I learned is you're talking to the owner of a business who's often the CEO, but they're also the head of HR, the head of marketing. They're probably not their accountant if they're smart, but they are their janitor, right? They have every last role in the company to go and worry about. And when you bring them new ideas, they may like the idea. They may actually want to go execute it, but they have no spare hands to get anything done. They're just trying to keep the lights on in most cases. You can see that many small business owners are overwhelmed with One might think about it as work. I see it as opportunity. The whole reason they got into the business was they wanted to make a difference and they saw opportunity. But their hands are filled with lots of opportunity. So, when you come at it from the perspective of, which was my mistake when I first started looking into the space, was you come at it with a perspective of, I want to sell something to them because I think it's valuable to them. It sounds good, but that's not the way you're going to actually be able to help a small business. What you're going to have to do is you have to think about their business and their problems and what are their priorities. And if what you offer is going to help them with their business and help them with their problems, there's a fit. And if there's not a fit, move on because they don't have time for you.
The importance, and I've talked about this a lot on the show with politics, the importance of identifying either your ICP, your ideal customer persona, or in the world of politics, I call it your IVP, your ideal voter persona, right? But then understanding that with that, not everybody is your target market, right? If you're trying to go out and sell ice, you don't need to go sell it to the Eskimo. And this is something I've heard, over the years, is this old adage of, man, that guy's such a great salesman. He could sell ice to an Eskimo. I say, no, he's not a great salesman, because you should first understand who is your market and what are the problems they're facing. What pain points do they have? And how can you bring a tangible solution to help them have a better outcome? And if you're selling ice to an Eskimo, chances are they don't need ice. So this is something I think a lot of small businesses get stuck on, is they build this great solution, right? And they themselves, they're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? They see the value, they see the benefit. And then for them, they almost become an evangelist for their solution. They want to go out and sell it to everybody and anybody, saying, look at how awesome this solution is. And then they get hit with the crickets, right? Because they might be talking to a customer or a prospect who it's not a good customer or prospect. So how do we, as advisors in this small business world, how do we help target small businesses towards the right personas to actually go after and have conversations with, versus just opening the floodgates and everybody's a prospect?
Yeah, like this is a constant problem for everybody. The bigger companies have the ability to go spread their bets across the entire framework of marketing and brand and product scope, so they can hit a broad swath. With a small business, you've got to think about who you impact the most, who's going to value you the most, and it's a combination of knowing who is your best customer and getting the timing right. You got to understand as well, when you come back to the perspective of everybody's busy and has 100 things on their mind. And yes, your product or your solution may solve a problem that they actually do have in hand at the moment. But if it doesn't come to top of mind for them to go solve, if it's not the number one pain point, not number one challenge at the time, what you've got to do is respect that they're doing the things that they think are important. And you want to leave just the impression that says, hey, when this thing does come up, you can trust me to be able to solve it for you. That relationship that a small business can develop with a potential client is very different than that of a big company. Big companies out there talking about a brand, getting logos out there, having easy access and one click anytime they want to get a customer to come in when they need it. But for a small business, what you leave people with is an impression about you as the owner, or you as the collection of personalities that makes up your business. And what they really want is someone who understands them. Because if they're understood, then they can come to you for that solution when they feel it's time. So know your space. So know who would be a very, very good customer. Know who would be someone who would evangelize you once they had you in hand. And then be patient. Then put yourself in their shoes and think about the world from their perspective. They've got a lot more problems than just the one that you're trying to solve, but you're going to be there when it's time to solve their problem.
Let's dig into this a little bit more, of not just the timing aspect, but just being okay with not now, right? Because I've talked about this a lot. Actually, we had a sales leader on the show, Craig Elias. He wrote a book called Shift Selling. And one of the things he talks about in Shift Selling is the idea of trigger events. So understanding when there is some moment of opportunity where your prospect is now open to having a conversation around exploring new solutions. And I've led outbound sales teams for well over a decade. This is something in the go-to-market space we talk about all the time, is the idea that, hey, when you get somebody on the phone, you might get like one or two good, warm leads per day as you're doing the smiles and dials or you're doing your outbound outreach. And even if they're not saying, yes, let's have a meeting tomorrow, you at least have now built up some rapport. And now you have something for a longer term play to better understand when the timing is right, how to kind of fit your solution into what they're looking to either resolve or a next step or what have you. But then layering in those trigger events. And one of the trigger events Craig Elias used to talk about a lot was, when you have business changes internally, right? So maybe you have leadership changes or a persona change that's actually the champion who's going out and bringing your solution internally to the economic buyers who would actually sign off on the end solution, trying to champion a newer solution, a newer way of doing things. Maybe something in the marketplace has changed. So, paying attention to the industry news, and maybe there's a new regulation that's been passed, or a new product has hit the market and it's revolutionizing that specific industry. But then once you see those trigger events starting to pop up, use that as a differentiator, coupled with to your point, the rapport, the kind of intangible stuff that doesn't go on a features and benefits sheet, but it's just more of the, and pardon the expression, but it's like the vibes, right? You kind of build that relationship with the person versus the company. So in your experience, what have you found as like very, I guess I'm going to say like hot button trigger events that a small or medium business who's offering a tangible product or solution could pay attention to in the marketplace to help them say, hey, I found a person, maybe they said not right now, but 5 months down the road, 5 years down the road, whatever it may be, there are certain things we should pay attention to that might initiate a new conversation that can actually turn into active pipeline into the sales process. All right, folks, elephant in the room. The world's a mess. Inflation is crushing savings. Politicians keep spending. So what's your backup plan? Oh, you don't have one. Well, if you don't worry. That's why the Expat Money Online Summit exists. From October 10th through the 12th, my good buddy Mikkel Thorup's bringing in global experts to show you how to protect your wealth, secure a second residency, lower your taxes, and even own property abroad. And by the way, it's totally free. So no flights, no hotels, just grab your ticket and tune in. And this year, the focus is on Latin America, with booming opportunities in countries like Argentina, El Salvador, Panama, and Paraguay. These doors are open right now, but only if you take action. And how do you do that? Well, head to expatmoneysummit.com and reserve your free, yes, I said free ticket. And by the way, if you want a full VIP package, you can use promo code TBNS for 20% off. That's expatmoneysummit.com, promo code TBNS. And now, let's get back to the show.
So, my business, the one that I had been running for the last 6-7 years, the lending business, could easily get their hands on the trigger events by watching the financial situation, through credit reporting. Right? You can see businesses needing credit, using credit. It was pretty easy to go figure out the trigger events. But every business is going to be a little bit different on their journey or on their customer's journey to buying the product. So I love to use the customer journey framework. If you're familiar with it, it starts with just awareness of the solution space, consideration of different possible brands or answers, and then trial and purchase. Let me test it out. Let me learn a little bit more, and then of course let me purchase it, and continues on with the use and the repeat use of the product or service. So when you think about for your business, oftentimes marketing from a small business is whatever you've got, whatever has the high return. We're going to put out, either be out there with signage if you're local and you got foot traffic, or be out there with internet ads, or having your website, being in the yellow pages, a number of different ways to just get traffic in. But when you realize that, given that you're small, you don't have the money to invest in brand awareness often, and you don't have the money to invest in in consideration, getting people to see you during their kind of non-active phase looking for a solution. What do you want to do is you want to understand your customers and how they go through that journey. When does those triggers, or when do they start thinking about your product? The smallest of small businesses aren't out there going and investing in search engine optimization or having blogs that talk about the problem, etc. But they do go and put themselves in the consideration set through Yelp or through Angie's List or through any number of other services. Those are all very helpful. But the next piece or two pieces of getting your solution to stand out is being a normal shopper when you're looking for the service. Instead of bringing all the things that you know as the owner of, hey, this is what I know about my business, so I don't need to ask those questions. Regular people have to ask a lot of questions before they even pick up the phone or try to make the next step. So that consideration process, again, it doesn't have to be digital. In fact, for many businesses, it's not. It's phone calls. It's talking to some related service. If you do things for homes, you may want to have a good set of realtors in your partner list because they may be bringing you leads. But who does the end consumer talk to or get their advice from? Or how do they learn about your product? That becomes a big piece to go and understand that trigger. But I would imagine most small businesses know the triggers. They just don't know where to find the triggers. Right? They're not sitting there taking the time to say, hey, how do I go? If you're out there trying to sell call center services, there's one or two triggers. It's, hey, we're out of life or something, or we're growing and our current solution just doesn't fit anymore. Right? I think it's probably the only one. Maybe our current solution is too expensive for us. But those are the two, because nobody is sitting there day to day saying, how do I get my telephony system better? Right? They're not just sitting, oh man, I got those customers I should take care of. I got these new products. Just like, no, let me think about my telephony. That's the thing I'm thinking about today. Yep. So when you think about how do I get to a trigger, or how do I get to what is the thing that's going to get them to start looking? It's often searches or internet searches or conversations. So how do you insert yourself into those conversations when you're small? This is where you say, if I'm micro-targeted, I know exactly who my customers are. You can actually do a little bit better. You can go and look at, I serve a particular business segment. I can actually be in some of their trade journals because I'm in this particular industry vertical. One of the things I love about small businesses is that they can survive by being hyper-focused, like focus on really a specific type of customer base. Sometimes it's just local, like literally local. Hey, we're on the corner here and this is our neighborhood. And we don't mind if people from outside the neighborhood come in, but we're the only, New York style pizzeria in this neighborhood of Indianapolis. So let's just be the New York pizza place. And guess what? There's more than enough people who want New York pizza often enough that they're going to be fine. But when you take the time to say, who am I and who am I not, right? I'm not deep dish. I'm not, thin crust. I'm not any of that stuff. I am classic. I'm going to have a tradition. I'm going to embrace that tradition. Then your customers know how to find you, right? Then you actually can come back and say, I know how to find my customers too. I know where I should be putting up my ads. I know where I should be investing. One of the principles that I found when I was dealing with a lot of the small businesses that, when I first got into the lending space, I thought it'd be helpful to bring them McKinsey-like framework and strategies on how they should think about their business for growth and what they should do with the capital that we were lending out. And what I found was that the rules of regular business, they still apply to the small guys. They absolutely still apply. You have to differentiate. You have to stand out. You have to have meaningful ROI on your investments. But the scale components don't work. You can't be big. You can't be fast and cheap, by doing all of these things and still be a small business. But you can be focused. And the businesses that know what they focus on tend to make much better decisions and without all the teams and the analysis, because they know in their hearts who they are.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to go back to, Shri, is you mentioned almost understanding why buyers buy. And it reminded me very much of something my old sales mentor, Victor Antonio, teaches on his podcast and his books, is understanding the why behind why people buy. And that is so profound because as sellers, and I mean, think of all the different sales processes that are out there, right? We almost bring our playbook to the table and we present it as this is how you will buy from me. But it's not us saying, how do you, Mr. Prospect, how do you like to buy? And it is such a conflicting approach. We might have in our head, okay, by day 45, we need to have a demo completed, a scope of work given out, and maybe we've already signed, some NDAs, right? That's where we're going to be by day 45. The buyer, they might say, dude, I'm still trying to uncover like different companies that are out there before I start getting knee deep in a buying process. So being able to truly, and you said this earlier, walk in your customer's shoes, understand how they think, how they're going to market, what are the questions that they're asking? And this is another piece. Jason Stapleton, he's been on the show a few times. He's very big in the SMB world. He's always talked about the idea of entering into the conversation that your prospects are having in their own mind. So if they're having this dialogue of, to your point, it's not, oh man, how do I improve my telco system, right? But rather, customers are so PO and they're giving us a call after they've had an issue. How do we fix that, right? If you're able to not only enter into that conversation, speaking their language, walking in their shoes, hey, Mr. Prospect, one of the things I've been hearing from small businesses is that they'll have no problem getting customers, but if something goes wrong and those customers have an issue and they want to reach out, that not only are they having trouble reaching out, but they're actually having that in their experience as a customer, and it's leading some really negative reviews online. Is that something you guys are experiencing in-house? Oh, it is. Turn that into a conversation. And then, as we're going through, now we've started a more true sales process. Understand them again. We're still walking in their shoes. Okay, so we're having this dialogue today. Great. So let's just assume that we want to move forward with this solution. And you don't have to say it's me. About what that process usually look like for you, Mr. Prospect, and to have them articulate what they walk through in their motion. And by the way, to your point, if you figure out that motion for a certain type of customer, chances are, maybe 70, 80% of the time, other customers in the same type of motion, they're going to be going out and probably doing the same type of buying process, right? So to your point now, again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Now it's a matter of we have it established. We have a process established. It's not our process. It's our process plus the buying motion of the customer. We're actually able to now present ourselves not as just the annoying sales guy who sends an email every 4 weeks saying, hey, just following up. Hey, just following up, right? Now it's hey, when we last talked, you had said that by this time, you're usually going to start doing X, Y, and Z. Are we still on track for that? And it's a completely different dialogue because now you're less the annoying salesperson and you're actually more of a true consultant, which that's kind of what us sales folks want to do.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that's an element of when you scale up a business. So I've done this a few times where I had to learn a few tough lessons. You look at the process just internally, you realize, hey, a lot of this stuff is repetitive and broken. Let's streamline it. Let's make it faster. Let's cut some people out because we want to go really fast and have very low friction. So that's how you scale a big organization is you start to make these, the process steps cookie cutter, simple, straightforward, easy. It sounds great internally when you build it out.
Frameworks.
But if you ignore the journey that your customer is taking, you go too fast. You go so fast that they don't get the time to understand the solution that you're proposing, to think about whatever problems they have to think about in there, and they have no partner in thinking through, should I go do this or not? The example I have from my time at the tax credit company was we would get out and we would call these small businesses, talk to them about these government tax credits. At the time, it was the work opportunity tax credit. There's a handful of different tax credits you can earn from just your basic day-to-day hiring practices. And most of the small businesses that we talked to just weren't collecting tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how many people they hire. Just didn't do the work. Why? Because filling out government paperwork is not something that's on the list of, and their accountants don't know, don't care. So all they're doing is burning up all these great government incentives that the big guys are absolutely taking, right? The big guys are taking them, to every last penny. And you reach out and you say, hey, what about these tax credits? They'd be like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was missing out on them. And then our team would be like, well, great. Look, tell you what, send us your information. Let's go do this thing. Give us this data and we'll get back to you and we can get you that tax credit. From my perspective, from anybody inside the business, that sounds great. Like one phone call, we get the data in there, we process it, and they're on their way to getting tens of thousands of dollars. When you stop and you say, wait, somebody gets a phone call out of the blue and says, hey, by the way, there's a whole bunch of money for you. Everybody's getting this money. You want to send me all of your information, like your employee data and their social security numbers and their payroll. And then I'll send you a bunch of money. I mean, I might as well have had my team say, hey, by the way, we're based in Nigeria. I'm a prince and I have lots of money in my bank account. Right? I'd like to give it to you. The missing element here, right, is trust. And so we actually broke our process down from there. We actually split it into pieces. We said, first, all we're going to do is educate people. Make the call, talk to them, let them know they're missing out on tax credits. If they have any questions, here's the government website. And then also here's my contact information. But I just wanted you to know, this is an information call. I respect your time because you're a very busy business owner. And now you think about it, the business owner here has gotten informed. Very interesting thing about these tax credits, didn't realize it. And he's talked to a person who's actually quite respectful of their time, isn't trying to force anything on them, and just says, hey, we're a resource to you. Great. Hang up, done. Or if you want to talk more, I can set up a meeting, etc. But, on you. There's nothing on me to go and set anything up, but it's my duty to go just inform as many people as I can. Then all of a sudden, you get the guy time to just think about it and maybe go do some research and look it up himself. Finds the government website, says, okay, so the government website's real, but I don't want to read a government website, right? Let me call the guy who was actually nice enough to tell me about it. He said he could answer questions for me. They call back. And now it's a dialogue. And so when you're designing this process for scaling up, like, well, if I could have done it in one call, man, that would have been so much better for me. Yeah. So we're not in it for me. We're in it to help our customers. So, it's not always the case where going fast, automating, and eliminating all the steps is good for you. But, you want to. We all should aim for that. But we all also want to go make sure we're taking the journey with the customer who's got to get through a few other stages that they don't matter to us, but they sure as heck matter to that customer. Let me learn about this. Let me start to trust the guy who I'm talking to before I start to go send over information or do, God forbid, do more work than I already have to do, right? Wait, you want me to go collect some data from my accountant and pull? Oh my God, no, thank you very much. Goodbye. Right? That was the conversation before. Even if they believed you, they're like, that's just too much work. The reason I'm not doing it is because it's a headache. But you give them time to think about it. Then you come back to, okay, well, what's going to trigger them is the next time they look at the bank account or next time they have to pay their taxes every quarter, they're like, oh, you know what? I better call that guy. And just let the trigger happen, right? Got a lot of calls on the quarter. A lot of calls back on the quarter.
You've spent your whole life building something meaningful, a career, a family, a legacy. But none of that matters if your health can't keep up. And the truth is, as we age, our body's natural production of nitric oxide, which is vital for circulation and heart function, declines sharply. And that drop increases your risk for high blood pressure, poor oxygen flow, and even cognitive decline. You don't feel like yourself, and no doctor seems to have an answer that doesn't involve more prescription medication. And that's why I recommend Cardio Miracle, because it's an all-in-one blend of nitric oxide boosters like L-arginine, L-citrulline, organic beets, and more that support your cardiovascular system, brain function, and your immune response. It's not about reversing time. It's about giving your body what it needs to keep showing up strong. You've worked too hard to feel like you're fading. So scan that little QR code over my shoulder, click the link in the show notes, or go to cardiomiracle.com/TBNS and get back in control of your health. And look for the little note saying you're shopping with Brian Nichols on the Cardio Miracle homepage. One more time, that's cardiomiracle.com/TBNS. And now, let's get back to the show.
Well, it's funny you say that because going back to, well, there's two things. First, the educate piece. When I first built this show in 2018, I wanted to build a show that was something that was informative, it had value, but it was not shoving politics or policy or anything like that down people's throats. The idea was, and this is the moniker of the show, is to educate, enlighten, and inform. I want the show to be something that a Democrat, a Republican, a moderate, an unaffiliated, whoever can sit down, listen to a conversation, and if they can walk away from the show feeling that, oh, I didn't really have any political biases shoved down my throat. It was just 2 or 3 people talking about an issue, trying to get multiple perspectives. I feel better educated now. I feel better informed now. So there's no real call to action. I'm not asking them to book a meeting, right, or anything like that. But what we've done is we planted a seed. And it's going to take time for that seed to grow into a plant. But to your point earlier, as they're going through life, or they're just going through whatever mental buying process they're going through, all of a sudden, maybe that issue that was talked about on an episode that they listened to pops up in real life. You don't think that that's the first thing they're going to think of is, wait, wasn't Brian talking about this with that guy on the show a few months ago? Oh, yeah, that's right. Interesting. Let's watch this play out, right? And all of a sudden it goes from a theory or an idea and it's more tangible. It's more real. To your point earlier, this is where, most salespeople have issues is they call in with the great idea, but it's not timely. It's not relevant. So if you're talking about a tax solution or, hey, get this free money from the government, right? And it feels almost like, I don't want to say inauthentic, but when somebody's just calling you out of the blue, you're doing something, right? You might be in the middle of a meeting. You might be in the middle of responding to emails. You might be out in the field and you're like, dude, I'll take the call, but like, this isn't a good time for me right now. Right. But if there's enough value that you give and enough information, enough context that the person can say, I hear what you're doing. I hear what you're selling. I hear the value and I'm hearing something I haven't heard for the first time. Great. Just present that information. And then when the time comes and you as a salesperson know what they're going to be looking for or what things are popping up, I mean, that might be a good chance for a follow-up email, right? That might be a good chance for a little, hey, by the way, it's tax season. Here's your little tax cheat sheet, something like that.
Yeah. Any business owner who believes in their product, believes their product has value and creates value for others, right? They should be thinking about marketing sales mostly as education. Let me help people understand. Let me help people see, right? Because if you do that and you have value, the people who need you will use you. The reason they don't is because they don't know who you are. They don't know much about what you can do. And they may not feel that current pain or urgency to go solve this problem. But if you're patient, right, and you're caring, and you worry about your customers' needs, these things come together in time. And it means evangelizing, but it doesn't mean evangelizing the product. It means evangelizing awareness of what makes your product better or special. You got something that's high quality. You got something that's kind of unique in the market. Explain why that feature is valuable to people. Don't explain that you're the only one with the feature. Nobody cares, right? What they care about or what they might care about is that particular feature, if they didn't realize it, saves them money or gets them to whatever they're going to go do faster. Talk about the values, right? And then eventually when they realize, oh, I can actually benefit from that feature, I know the one guy who has it because he educated me. Or even if they don't, they go look around. And if it's your unique thing, they go look around. They go, well, the one who's best at this is this guy. Oh, yeah, that's the one who did the ad. They won't remember. It doesn't matter. They want your feature because you're special.
Well, and how about this? I know we're getting hard pressed for time, so I want to be respectful of your time. I'll finish with a quick story, and then I'll let you come in for final thoughts. But I'll articulate this in my real day job, right? And for folks who've been listening to the show, you've probably heard a few ads on the program for a company called Level 365. Well, that's my day job, right? That's where I'm spending time building out what we call our channel program for sales. And the reality is that my company, when I joined, they were very much a regional company in what we call the UCaaS space, Unified Communications as a Service, which is business telephony, business phones, right? And the challenge that we were facing going into this world where I was growing into what we call a TSD channel, a technology service distributor channel, is that while we were a rock solid company that had been around for 15 years, we were very regional. We were going through what are called MSPs, or managed service providers. They were reselling our solution to end customers, but we really didn't do much in terms of like getting the name out there nationally or getting the company on a larger scale. So I was brought in to more or less do that. That's my job here. So one of the biggest challenges I was facing at the beginning was there are 87,000 different unified communication vendors out there. And by the way, folks, you probably know some of these names out there like Zoom or Ring Central or Vonage, or you go down the list. There's all these big companies that are out there, and they've established massive market share. And by the way, to your point earlier, they are spending millions and millions of dollars in ads, and they're able to get their name and their logos slapped everywhere. And what I started to do on LinkedIn and networking with key stakeholders at these technology service distributor organizations, that they are more or less like, if you were to imagine a pyramid, right? They are the tip of the pyramid of giving you access to a portfolio of 10,000 plus technology advisors who are going out and selling these solutions to end customers. So I went on LinkedIn, I've been on YouTube, and I've been just slowly, steadily beating the drum of Level 365 and the different value props, namely month-to-month contracts, which compare and contrast to the big vendors. They lead with 3 to 5 year contracts. So you sign today and it would be 2030 by the time that maybe you look for a new phone system or a new solution. We give them scalability so they can scale up or down with no consequence. We're not going to charge them early termination fees or extend their contract by default for another 3 years because they add a phone user. We have 100% US-based support. So they call for help. They're not going to get sent to some call center in Bangladesh. They're going to get somebody in Indiana who's going to be a live answer in less than 15 seconds. And then, oh, by the way, call center for small businesses, it's usually not accessible because call center products cost like hundreds and hundreds of dollars per month per user. You extrapolate that across multiple locations or multiple users, all of a sudden you're, $25,000, $35,000, $55,000 in just call center stuff. So what we did was we said, hey, we have a lot of that stuff built into our solution already. We just add a little license on top of what we already have, like $15 more, and then they get access to some of the call center features that they actually use, right? So I say all that, I'm beating that drum on LinkedIn, I'm beating that drum on YouTube, little videos here and there, and the people who were watching it were the partner development managers, the folks who actually work with these technology advisors who are saying, hey, we have a new vendor in our portfolio. You should be able to bring them to the table. But the challenge was, Sri, I wasn't in the portfolio yet. I wasn't in this one big TSD's portfolio. But what happened was, as I'm steadily beating the drum, all of a sudden, technology advisors who I'm connected with on LinkedIn and such, they're reaching out to their PDMs and they're saying, hey, I have a small business. I think Level 365 would be a really, really good fit for them. And they had to say, we can't bring them to the table yet because they're not signed with us. You times that by 50 technology advisors who are saying, hey, I want to bring Level 365 to the table. Suddenly the TSD is saying, man, there's some revenue that we're not getting a piece of. Maybe we should bring them in. And long story short, as of like 2 weeks ago, we officially signed paperwork with one of these largest national TSDs to be one of their SMB priority companies. And oh, by the way, they have been getting so much requests for us that they're doing a whole SMB campaign right now where they're going out doing an entire like technology refresh for small and medium businesses. And they're leading with my company as one of the top companies. So I use that as a case study, folks. Yeah. This stuff works. I wasn't going on LinkedIn and saying, hey, let me call every single customer that could possibly use our stuff. It's creating value. It's creating interest. It's the political signage, right? It's the putting the stuff out there so folks are getting aware, they know you, they like you, and they can start to trust you, right? And it just turned into what we are now seeing, the fruits of the labor for the past 6 months. It's real. So I say all that. Sri is 1,000% correct. And folks, if you're listening to this and you're a small or medium business owner, or you're a sales executive working for a small or medium business trying to differentiate in the market, this stuff works. And Shri has developed some amazing frameworks, by the way, that can help you build this in your business. So Shri, I'll bring things over to you for our final thoughts today. What would you like the audience to take away from today's conversation? And of course, different resources that folks can go ahead and reach out to you for if they want to learn more and help revamp their SMB infrastructure when they're trying to develop new sales processes and the likes.
Great. So quick recap. I thought we covered a couple of great things. One is about knowing who you are and your differentiation. What's different about you? I have in the book, Unconvention, that just came out, I have a set of 3 principles. The first principle is positioning. Know who you serve, know what's unique about you. And conversely, know who you don't serve. These boundaries make it much more effective for you to be focused and deliver something unique and special to your customers. The other principles around proximity and purpose kind of apply as well to understanding and being in your customer's shoes, proximity. And purpose is you're solving their problem, kind of not your bottom line problem. By solving their problem, you'll get that bottom line. But having a purpose that's beyond just, hey, we're trying to make a buck, gives you a huge advantage as a small business. And, in the book, we talk a lot about all these different frameworks, but the ones that I thought were great, we could hit on today, there's a framework for looking at that customer journey, where they actually make their decisions and how to be involved. It's very powerful when you're thinking about marketing and acquiring customers. I'd also say there's some fantastic work by David Meister on the trust equation, which is about how to develop trust. I cover it a little bit in the book, but when you think about getting somebody to take that next step to kind of use your product, often in a sales environment or any in small business, trust is a really big and often unspoken component of the sale. Yes, you have a product. Yes, you tell me that the value equation works out. And yes, I could use that and the value I can see. But do I believe the guy who's telling me this? Is he self-interested? Is he just trying to make a buck? Is he the Prince of Nigeria trying to send me cash through the wires? Trust is a really, really important element that small businesses have an advantage on. And it comes down to how do you leverage that in not just your sales process, but service and repeat and getting your own customers to evangelize you. Building trust is pretty critical. So I'd say, look, we had a fantastic conversation on this. I think this is something that any business who's going after trying to solve a real problem in the world has an advantage over many of the big businesses who are out. Their number one problem they have to solve is what are next quarter's earnings going to be, right? And just if you keep that in mind and saying, hey, I'm actually worried more about my customers' problems than I am next quarter's earnings. And I know that by solving their problems, I've got something of value that will fund my business. I'm going to go solve problems.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the longer you can keep running, the more endurance you have in this sales world, the more effective you will be. The book, by the way, folks, is Unconvention, a small business's strategy guide. We'll include that link there in the show notes. And of course, you want to reach out to Shri, I will make sure we include his social media links there as well. You can go ahead and follow him over on LinkedIn. One more time, check out those show notes. And by the way, folks, if you got some value from today's conversation, you know the drill. Go ahead and give it a share. When you do, please tag yours truly at B Nichols Liberty on Instagram, on X, and on Facebook. And for the Brian Nichols Show, if you like to watch your podcast, you like to listen to your podcast, wherever it is, you can go ahead and find the show. So if you like to listen, head to YouTube, or if you listen to the podcast, head to YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is really you get your podcast. I like Podcast Addict. You can find the Brian Nichols Show. Hit subscribe. We have over 1,000+ episodes where we've had some amazing sales leaders like Elias, Victor Antonio, Art Subcheck. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. We've had so many great sales folks, and now obviously having Shri here on the show as well. So please go ahead, check those out. Or if you like to watch your programming, head to YouTube, Rumble, X, or Facebook. We air the entire show in its video format over on those platforms. And by the way, we do live stream the episodes on Monday, Thursday, and Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. So hit that little notification bell so you don't miss a single time we go live. But with that being said, Shri Kaza, any final words for the audience before we say goodbye today?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. All right, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and put a pin in today's conversation. So with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Sri Kaza. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.